This lesson will be about depth. Not like depth general, but what makes your work look a little bit more realistic and a little bit different from what everyone else is sharing. When you can add additional dimension to your work, it perceives a little bit different. And this is what you can do. Play again. Play with shapes and shadows. Use your creativity to do that. Let me show you a couple of examples. There is not too much to learn from here. I mean, how to create that. But what you need to understand, what you can create. So here, as you can see, I have 3 different icons. And if I put them just like they look cool, awesome, everything is great here, and it can be a post. But in addition to that, if you can add additional dimension, so all these elements go one on top of another one on top of another one, you see like these cards are creating this depth in this scene, and it looks much more interesting. This is what you can apply in your work. For example, let's imagine that instead of icons here, let's create object. Let's remove icons themselves. Keep only these rectangles. Now let's select these rectangles. Go to plugins, Flash. Wait a little bit. Start with random. And boom, your work looks much more interesting when you are presenting it this way. And of course, you can put one object here, another one here. This one rotated a different direction. And he will write something like join the community of 300 plus. Amazing. Just a random one. And let's change text key community of. Gonna change the typeface to something different. Yeah, maybe like that. Amazing. Now you can play with all these objects. Let's imagine that all these images here are avatars of different people. Take a look at what is possible. Do that with Unsplash if select portrait. That's not what I expected, right? But yeah, look, this looks absolutely different. And now if it will be your website, create this thing on depth field. Much more interesting now when you have additional dimension on this, on your work. And this can be your hero section. In addition to that, you will add here the button, join, and maybe additional description. This is your hero section. You just created the hero section for your website. This is how you can do that. Another way how to add depth to your work is to put a shape behind the object that is already existing in the work. Let's go to our 3D and let's take, for example, our star that we copy, done, another frame, key, edit, bigger, date. So this is our star. But what if I want to add additional fill into that? It's already 3D. But what I can do is actually I can add even a rectangle on the background. If you remember from the live session when I showed you the where to get inspiration from, was the image on Instagram with a car that is in front of us, and on the background we have a garage door, and the light goes from there. So if I put something here, like this color, something contrast color to our star, now we added additional depth to this object, to this artwork. And this is how you can play with that. And of course you can, instead of just solid color here, you can use you can apply button, and it will look also amazing. And if you want to go even further, then you can, using pen tool, and create something like shadow here. Find this arrow, Shift X to switch between fill and stroke colors. And now for this one, change it to orange, but dark one. These effects, layer blur, 20. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply maybe darken, soft light, like how it reflects on the blue color. Doesn't look perfect here, so in this case we'll just change the opacity with 20, for example, 30, and we'll also that here, here. And this is how we added even additional layer of depth to this object, because this perceived as a wall, this one as a floor, and then the object here. You can take the idea also from photography. If you remember that I told you in the creativity live section that you can get inspiration from all over the world, from everywhere, from different spheres. So that's why it's important to know, to have the knowledge from everywhere, from all the possible spheres. If you love photography, probably you know from product photography that when you are setting the background, usually it goes like a piece of paper, and then it creates the wall and the floor. And if it's white, for example, then in this case it will be linear, have back part like that. Perfect. Here, here, darker, like this one. Make this white again. This, the area where we don't have the light. So this adds additional feeling of the real object, like a wall on the background and the floor right in front of us. Here's the floor, one, then we have the wall, and we have like this one. And we added this additional feeling of depth on this work. And for this object, as you can see, you can do yourself. This is our floor. This is the cube that I created using the isometric shapes that I already showed you how to do that. You can take a look that it's done a little bit different from what we already created. Take a look at that. Really interesting because I'm using mask here. You'll take a look at that yourself in the file. But also I added something on the wall, and this create depth as well. So if you'll put, for example, your mockup here, the mockups that we already discussed. For example, here, depth, and instead of this object, let's put our mockup. Add it inside our artwork. Okay. Scale it up here. And now this looks much more interesting rather than when it will be just the phone. So this is what you can do. This is what you can play with depth. Another way how to create depth, I already showed you when we discussed 3D spheres. But here you can see I have image that is flying somewhere on the surface, and our focus is on the image. How I created this paper effect, like flying paper effect. Again, always start with a frame, create a rectangle, rotate it a little bit, and then go to the edit mode, press enter or return, and add additional points here, and here. Press command and click on the point to make it curved. Do the same at the top part here, down, command, and this is our flying paper. Now on top of the paper, we will apply from Unsplash, Command Option P to call again the plugin that you recently used. And here I will use Amazing Picture. What I'm going to do, I'm copying this picture, rotating it, making it bigger, put it somewhere here, rotating it again, making it smaller, put it behind of our main image that would be in the focus, make it even, and now, as you already understand, effects, layer blur, 20, Command Option C, Command Option B, this is well, but we'll change this, we'll make layer blur bigger there. So now what do we have? We have perfect focus of on our image at that here, and then have additional images that create this feeling of like we are looking through the camera on this object. We focused on this particular element, and this one are out of focus. Play with that. This is really unique. Also, you can use it on your website as well. So for example, here you can have this, maybe instead of this image, you have text, and it will attract our attention, but this text will be behind image that here stopped, and now our focus on the text. At the same time, what we have here is text is in the focus, and everything else just creates this additional feeling of 3D. This is, I just wanted to show you that you can also imitate the depth by showing the size. The smaller the object is, the more we perceive it as it further from us than objects that are bigger. And as you can see, I created lots of arrows here, and if the arrow is smaller, it means that it's going away from us. That's why the sphere is smaller. If the object is on one line, then it's a little bit bigger. This one also further. If this one, for example, if this arrow will also small, but at the same time here even bigger, it means that this arrow is looking towards us. This is what you can just understand how everything is working in the real world, because you know that all these things are from real world. When you are looking somewhere at the horizon line, you will see that objects there are further, they're smaller. You understand that. I don't need to explain this. The easiest way how to create depth is just to put the object behind another object, just keep in mind that objects that are further from us, they have lower saturation, and also I can't say that they are darker, but usually we perceive that what is behind is darker. Why I'm not saying that this is darker? Because objects that are closer to us usually have higher saturation, and because of that, they in reality they are darker. But when we are playing only with two objects like this one, it's better to show that this one, it actually doesn't matter. As you can see, it looks perfect here with gray. But when you are playing with images, everything that is further from us is usually smaller and has lower saturation. Need to know also from the art. And then you can play and create absolute different scenes like this one. I used the mockup that we already created. You know how to do that. I used the 3D sphere that we already created. You know how to create them. And I put some spheres behind the phone, some spheres in front of the phone, some spheres are out of focus. And this is how we created the awesome, incredible scene with your design in front of us. And looks much more interesting rather than just having the image of your design. Think about it and add them to your Behance portfolio, for example. And the last thing, how to create depth, like bevel effect. You can see it on different objects like this one, for example, in packaging. You see that the text is inside of the paper. And this is what you can create here as well. If you are talking about text, you just playing, in this case, with shadows, inner shadows. You already know how to use them. Inner shadow here, and one on the X, one Y, maybe two for this. And now, as you can see, this is what we created, that the text is inside of this paper. And of course, else reduce opacity. Perfect. And another thing, if you'll take a look on the real examples like this one, that the paper itself, to add additional contrast to these objects, what else you can do? You can just change the color of the object itself, make it a little darker, to increase the contrast of your text. Just like that. This actually can be also color, and we will add additional inner shadow, but this time this shadow will be -1, -1, 1, and here we'll white 100%. Perfect. Now, because the text is too small, we can increase the size of it. As you can see, I applied these effects to the text itself, which means that if I make this text bigger, 80, like this one, we still have the same effect applied to the text. This is what you can do just playing with shadows, inner shadows. This, in the previous lesson, we learned how to create 3D text. And in this case, we will need to make, instead of drop shadows, instead of inner shadows, drop shadows, make them 3D just for this case, like this one. So it's in front of us. If you want to make text inside of the paper, then it will be inner shadow. And just using this one, just switching between inner shadows and drop shadows, we were able to create two absolutely different effects. In addition to that, for this shape, as you can see, I applied only inner shadow that goes from the top, and that's it. That's it. And now you know that this is just the cover of the box, and everything else is what's inside of this box. Maybe it's a gift card or something. It's inside there. It's behind this cover. Really low contrast. I don't recommend actually to play too much with effect. because it's hard to read, but it can be interesting if it's not the most important information here, but you want just to create the feeling. Don't think about accessibility for things that don't make sense, that are created just for another feeling, of the work. Because if it's not the most important information, then if we can't see it, it's okay. Just a little tiny things that applied here. And the same cover here. That's it, as simple as that. And if you, of course, you already know how to create isometric shapes, feel free to play with these objects that you have. Scale. Remember that for isometric objects, everything should scale inside of the work. Let's duplicate it, put it here. Remember that for isometric shapes, we rotate by 45 or minus 45 degrees. Group it, then change the height of the group to 57.73%. Press enter. And because we had text here, let's make it Command Shift O. So now it's just a shape. Enter. Shift, perfect. You don't see anything because the color is the same. Change the color to something else. And now you have a postcard that created out of this element. In addition to that, you can make Command D down shape. Color to oh, it's something that we don't use. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's because we don't have bottom, because we don't have the background, we don't have the rectangle for the background for this object, and the color is created only from the color of the frame, so that's why we don't see it. But we can the color of this frame down a little bit, like this one, and now it looks even more realistic. We can move it more, so now it's flying in the air. Perfect. Now you know how to add depth, additional depth to your work, so your work will look much more interesting. Play with that, experiment, and I'll see you in the next lesson.